I'm Robert McBride, and this is Everyday People, a program in which we investigate the lives of people making a difference in our community. Good morning, this is Robert McBride from the Rockingham Arts and Museum Project Ramp with another episode of Everyday People, exploring and talking with people in our community that are making a difference. So on today's program, we have two artists with us, Claire Sullivan Adams and Charles Norris Brown, and they both live in the area of Rockingham. Charles lives right downtown in the Exner block, and Claire lives out on the border of Cambridge, Port Grafton, whatever happens with 05101 out there and stuff. And they're both also going to be participating in this upcoming weekends of Memorial Day, Saturday and Sunday, the 26th and 27th of May, open studios. So you will be able to actually visit their studios if you like and converse with them more. So welcome.
Thank you.
Right?
Thanks for having us.
Good. So Claire, I think we'll introduce you first, and
Okay.
you. Anyway, it's kind of nice to know. I assume people in the audience kind of know nothing, may not know you at all, but you're an artist that has been in the area for a while. So tell us about, did you grow up here? How did you end up in this region? And what kind of artwork do you basically
I've been
create?
in southern Vermont since 1988. I was in West Townsend for about 25 years.
Okay.
And I was in Saxons River for 4 years, and now I'm in Grafton.
Okay.
So been painting the local landscape for a long time.
Right. So you do plein air, and I also believe you're a printmaker, right?
I do oil painting and printmaking, but I'm mostly printmaking these days. I
Right.
do mono printing.
Great. So we'll get into a little bit more understanding what that exactly is and stuff. And Charles, you drifted into Bellows Falls from where?
Well, last time was in Burlington, Vermont, and then before that, Westford, Vermont, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. Lived overseas for 22 years, so it's kind of like, at my age, you have a lot of places you've lived and tried.
And Vermont sort of seems like home.
It is, yeah, I really love Vermont.
And how about Bellows Falls?
And I love Bellows Falls.
There we go.
Gotta say that.
Did you do that banner across the street that says "I love Bellows Falls"?
Yeah, with a hashtag.
Yeah, the hashtag. Fantastic, man.
Yeah.
That's great. And you live actually in the Exner block, which is right downtown.
Yeah, I was away for a while last year, and then when I found out there was a place available in the Exner block with a studio and apartment together, I just took it. I said it couldn't happen again. It's just fantastic, that place.
And it's worked out well for you.
It's
You've
worked
been there
well, and I have a studio there, which will be open on Open Studio
Oh,
Weekend
great.
as well. So.
Okay, cool. Yep. Charles also has an exhibition that's in Project Space 9, along with Gene Cannon, both residents of the Exner block. So Project Space 9 is number 9 Canal Street, and you could probably enter the building there and actually art in his studio that would be upstairs. And that's it. And they're both Claire and Charles are involved in an exhibition at the gallery at the end of the Exner block, the Canal Street Gallery. And there's a current word. What is the theme of the current show?
River.
The
The River.
The
Long River is the name of the exhibition,
Yeah.
right? And that gallery will be open.
Yeah.
Maybe you can tell us about how you both got involved in that exhibition.
Starting with me, we started a group of artists doing plein air, along with Gil Perry of Springfield. Yeah, we started that last year, Gene Cannon and myself, and then we started to go out with some other people in the middle of the winter, including Mike Norris from the gallery. And then Claire came on also in the middle of the winter. We went out to Herrick's Cove one day in the snow and did some work there.
It's a nice group of artists that go out, and it's nice as a group to
Right.
Yeah.
And
Go
plein air
exploring,
painting is
yeah.
actually where you go out and paint in the environment,
Yeah.
So is that something that happens regularly? You're kind of flexible with your dates? Is it open to more people joining you, or how is it going?
Well, Charles has been leading the group, I would say, more or less, and then we pick a place among the group to meet.
We try to coordinate days. Not everybody can go every day, but it seems like certain days are better than others. And then it depends on the weather. 'Cause
Right.
plein air is hard to do in the rain, especially watercolor.
Yeah.
And,
A new technique may develop. Put it on the ground and let it all just drip onto it. Yeah.
I tried that. But also places to go. Usually they're around the area, the Connecticut River, the
Right.
Saxon River,
Okay.
or the Black River, or any of those. We're also, now that the weather's changed, maybe going on longer hikes up along the Long Trail and not the Long Trail, the local trails and those kind of things.
Yeah, it's inspiring to go with a group. It really gets you out there.
Well,
Yeah.
I think you were talking about that. It's nice to, I think a lot of artists work in isolation, and especially when you get into rural areas like Vermont, they may just work at home. I was always working in the city, and so, usually I'd be in a building with other artists. There was a lot of communication, or, you could go into someone's studio and say, come look at this that I'm working on, or let's go have a cup of coffee, and I think in Vermont often you can get a little more isolated if you live out in the country, and I think that's why it's kind of great that we have this kind of hub of activity happening in Bellows Falls and the Exeter Block, and then regular little coffees and potlucks that just bring people in touch with each other.
And then
do
to be able to
things.
show together is really a neat thing.
Yeah. So we have currently got like 3 shows that are open this weekend over Open Studios. So we have at the Canal Street Gallery, just mentioned, it's in the Exeter Block, Project Space 9 Gallery in the Exeter Block, and then at Flatiron Exchange, the work of all the artists that are involved with Open Studio this weekend. Their work is currently hanging there. And Jen at the Exchange is acting as an information center for the weekend. So you could go in, have a coffee, pick up brochures, look at the different artists' work, decide whose studios you may want to have time to go visit and stuff. So we really are encouraging people to take advantage of 11 places being opened in the Bellows Falls immediate region. And also meet the artists. If you're another artist and been curious about getting studio space or moving to Bellows Falls, here's an opportunity to come meet some of the artists that are living here and see their spaces and find out more. So we would really encourage people to come and visit us over this weekend.
And your studio is in a little farther out.
Yeah.
I'm in Grafton,
Yeah.
which is actually, it's in the Cambridgeport section of Grafton, on Cambridgeport Road off of Route 121. It's a little hard to find, but if you stick
marked,
to
follow
it,
those yellow
you'll
signs.
find it. Follow the yellow signs.
Follow the yellow signs. And also if you go to the vermontcrafts.com website, there the map of all the studios that are open is there, and you can see their numbers and directions on how to get to them. So we really encourage you to go out and say hi to the artists and feel very comfortable saying hello and whatever, and just enjoy seeing their spaces and where they work.
And I'll be doing printmaking demonstrations, so if anyone is interested in mono printing or block printing, come take a look at how it's done.
Great. That's terrific. So why don't you both talk a little bit about your work, what kind of work you create? Why don't we start with you, Charles?
Well, I brought samples of my work that I'm really focusing on. A lot of work that I do is pencil or charcoal or watercolor. But I've been working more recently on writing and illustrating children's books. So I brought the one that I've printed recently, or 2016 was published. It's called Did Tiger Take the Rain? And it is published by Green Writers Press. And it is now going through publishing changes. So anyway, this is kind of what I have been focusing on. I'm also writing a newer book. It's about Mount Mansfield, a little change of animals and people. There's some of my drawings that I use. I'm trying to work on ink wash and ink lines and watercolor combination. I don't know if you can actually see that. So that's kind of where I am with these things. That's my major project right now.
And the book that you have, is it, if they come to your studio, they would be able to see it and probably purchase copies. Is there any other places where they currently are, if they don't get around to the studio tour, would say, oh, I listened to that guy, heard him on the program. I'd like to know more about his book. Are they for sale somewhere?
They are for sale by myself.
Okay.
Right now, I have the copies at home, all the copies
Okay.
that are available.
Okay.
There are copies in bookstores, and
Okay.
Village Square does have a few
Okay.
of those. And I'm not sure about other bookstores; they might be hard to find.
Right.
So this is a little ad for my book. Get out there and get the last copy to the hard copy version while you have a chance.
Great. Well, so Village Square Bookseller, which is definitely open on Saturdays, and pretty good chance it might be open Sunday. this weekend too. So it's a wonderful
Yeah.
bookstore to shop in.
It's
Pretty
a
much
good place.
anywhere you see yellow signs up this weekend or balloons mean there's artists or artisans working there. So just feel perfectly comfortable to wander into those spaces. And the great thing about this concentration of artists in our region is that you can park your car in Bellows Falls and see a lot, and then to get to Claire's or to Island Hoey's or Mark Goodenough's studios, you'll just follow yellow signs and get there.
So one more thing, very, very quickly. If anybody wants to see the originals of these paintings and drawings and how I put it together, you're welcome to come on Open Studio and I'll show you that stuff.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And Claire, why don't you talk a little bit about the work that you do?
Well, I'm mostly doing mono printing these
Okay.
days, and mono printing is a process done with colored inks on plexiglass plate, and I roll the plates with color, and then I wipe the designs into the ink,
Okay.
and then I roll it through an etching press,
Right.
and it comes out on the paper. It's a pretty fascinating technique, and I do layers with different colors. The inks I use are non-toxic. They're
Okay.
fairly new inks. It used to be that printmaking inks were so toxic, and I was quite allergic to them. But with the new inks, you can get your hands dirty, and it washes with soap and water.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
it's really great stuff. Kids can use it.
Right.
So it's a really fun technique. I encourage anyone to come and see how it's done.
Right. So you'll be actually producing some monoprints, and I'm
I
sure you have
will.
different work hung in your studio.
I do. I have lots of
Great.
work. I also do block printing,
Okay.
which is, I brought
Oh, yeah,
an
let's see
example
that.
of that
Okay.
to show. So I don't know if you can see that. This is done on a rubber block and carved. It's quite easy to carve.
Okay.
But with printmaking, everything is done in reverse. It's
Right.
mirror image, so you really have to keep in mind you have to do your image backwards.
Right.
So it will print forward. So
Right.
That's-
Yes. The little
That's fun.
Yeah.
It keeps it interesting.
keeps the mind lively.
Yeah.
It helps you getting Alzheimer's, Keep those little
That's right.
pathways
It's a-
open in your brain.
it's a puzzle.
I'm working in reverse here.
Yeah.
That's really great. That's really great. So you do the printmaking. So, and do you do other kinds? Do you do etching? Do you do lithography?
I do some dry point.
Okay.
Dry point is scratching into a plate,
Okay.
either a copper or zinc plate, or I just scratch right into the plexiglass.
Okay.
So it's a form of etching with no toxic chemicals.
Right. So you don't have to do any acid eating into the plate. It's just the
No,
actual line that you cut.
Just rub
into
the ink into the scratch lines, and then you wipe it off where it's
Right.
you don't want it, and run it through the press, and
And it pushes
the
it out
image
of that little
comes
thing.
out,
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. And then tell me a little bit about being involved with the plein air group and work you've been doing.
Well, when I go out with the group, I don't actually paint on location.
Okay.
I just do sketches and take
Oh,
some photographs, and then I bring it all back to my studio, and I make my template for my print. So I copy my drawing
Right.
on a template,
Okay.
and then I figure out which colors to use, because I have to do a color separation and separate all the colors.
Right.
Reverse everything, and then I do the image.
Okay.
So it's a mono print,
Okay.
which means you don't have multiples. You only get one mono,
print, the one that's in.
Right, but I'll do several of those to see which
Okay.
one is
Oh, cool.
closest.
And then do you also do watercolors and paintings on canvas too, or
I
pretty
do
much?
some canvas,
Yeah.
oil paintings on canvas, but right now, really, the printmaking is most interesting to me.
Great. That's great. So other than, I know we live in rural Vermont and it's hard to probably get the word out there about your work in general. I mean, we have a supportive community, of artists and things. But I was talking to the glass blowers on the previous program about, outreach. Now they do regular kind of craft shows that they go to, and they, get a lot of interaction and feedback and take orders. How do you, I mean, most artists are probably interested in how you, try to get out there in the world to sell work and stuff,
It's tough. I mean, there's local galleries that I show in, and then there's Instagram and Facebook, which is good to promote your
Right.
work and your
Right.
website. But it's tough here in Vermont,
Yeah.
and you really do it because you love to do it.
Right. I mean, we do think Vermont is sort of a lifestyle choice, if you want to be. But even artists in an urban area, there's just more artists and less opportunity too. It's just really, really hard. And we're sort of talking about how do you keep that balance between the marketing of artwork, which is something else, and just creating work, because that's what artists really do. You're sort of forced to be these two people, this marketer, and then, you know, how do you just spend time
And
in
then
your studio creating?
Most of us have side jobs
Mm-hmm.
that we're juggling as well, so that makes it more
Yeah,
complicated.
yeah. So what about you, Charles? Is there some connection? How do you have a connection to the bigger world?
The watercolors that I've been doing in Vermont, I've done partially as a member of the Vermont Watercolor Society.
Oh,
And that helps a lot because that gives you exposure. It also gives you a chance to talk to other people, and they have 2 shows a year where you can hang your artwork in
Oh.
pretty good galleries in the area. So
okay.
that's been a real boon for me. But since I'm focusing on children's books, I have a whole different kind of problem with the publishing world, the book world, which is not quite the same as selling art online.
Right.
This book, I might mention, is we're looking at putting this out there in lesser known languages for a very low price, if not free. It's called open source
Huh.
books, and I'm working on that right now with someone about how to do that, and it would mean that I would get lots of exposure, but a little money, probably. But can you imagine like 10,000 copies of my book being read by children around the world? I just think it's just an amazing
That's
feeling.
exciting.
That would be
Yeah.
cool.
But that's a different problem from artists, although these kind of open source books are also available to artists who might be interested in providing artwork and then putting it out there online and letting people download it and write books around it and that kind of thing. That's a whole different kind of genre than selling art, but it's something that artists might be interested in looking into. Creative Commons is the name of the open source group that works with publishing and art and that kind of thing.
Okay, great. Now, it's kind of interesting because, you know, I consider Bellows Falls very urban. You know, it's walkable. There's, you know, I live in town and work up the street in the Exner block, and days I never have to get in an automobile. I feel like I'm living in a neighborhood of a city. You know, I can walk to the store, I can walk to the movie theater, the post office, you know, without having to get in a car. And, you know, that's part of Vermont. And then we have the rural Vermont. You know, you're living out in the countryside, so to speak, not way, way, way out in the countryside like
Not
some
a
people
dirt
do.
road.
But yeah, you know, you do it. And so how does that kind of work for you? Like, you know, Charles lives in a building with 8 other artists living in it. You know, you can have casual conversations or probably get input. So with you living out there in where you do you feel like a need to be connected with other artists, or do you just enjoy the space out there that you have to yourself?
I've really enjoyed it because I'm inspired by nature, so I
Right.
can just go for a walk,
Right.
and the views are everywhere, and I can really appreciate the weather out there. But
Yeah,
I
talk
do,
to me, February 2nd when you're out there. Like, Claire, anyone seen Claire for 2 months? Yeah.
But I do have to make an effort to get out there
Okay.
and see people and connect and
Right.
see what's going on.
And sort of conversely, Charles, do you feel that you get enough kind of quiet time for yourself in your studio in town, or, you know, do you feel like, oh God, I need to get out into nature or something?
I do. The way the Exner block is now is that mostly artists live there now, and it's really quite quiet, so to say. I have the only thing I notice around there really is the trains that
Right.
come up and down the railroad
Right.
tracks right behind the building.
Right.
But I have gotten used to them, and I kind of appreciate it. And I'm actually a rural person originally, and so being in a town is different for me. And I found it is really, really makes the life a lot easier because I can, like I say, walk to the post office. I can walk around town and get things to eat in town.
Right.
But I do miss being out in nature. So once in a while, I'll go to my cabin in Pennsylvania and
Okay.
stay there, remote
Right.
cabin. But I think I have the best of both worlds because Vermont is so rural. I mean, Bellows Falls, within 5 minutes, you're in
Exactly. I mean,
the rural area.
I'm sure laughable to a lot of people that we're talking about urbanness with a village population of 3,600 people. But when you lived in Burlington, is there some comparison of your lifestyle in Burlington compared to your lifestyle in Bellows Falls?
The studio and the apartment situation I have now is really fantastic to work in. You have both live space and downstairs you have a studio. When I was living in Burlington, prices were so high in Burlington, it was really hard to find a studio. I was paying $450 a month, which was low for the last studio I had, and spending another $100 on coffee and things, and it wasn't making any money, so
Right.
that's money just out the window.
Yeah.
Whereas here, you have both living and workspace
Yeah.
together, which is just great,
Right.
and an artist community.
Yeah.
I work with Main Street Arts as well in
Yeah.
Saxons River. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, and also the, I guess I'll mention the Exner block for people that don't know is in downtown Bellows Falls on Canal Street as you go from the downtown and head towards the train station. And it was owned by Mary Exner family, and in 1998 it was a derelict building up for sale, and Housing Vermont, a statewide housing organization, decided they wanted to purchase it. And at that time, I just started my organization, the Rockingham Arts and Museum Project, and I was able to partner with them and our local land trust at that time, the Rockingham Area Community Land Trust, to create a building with 10 affordable live workspaces and a preference given to artists. And so it's provided affordable live workspace in perpetuity, which means it will always remain that. So it can't be the subject of some gentrification if suddenly Bellows Falls land prices start going crazy. That will always remain affordable housing in perpetuity. And I believe in Windham County, a resident can earn up to $30,000 a year to still qualify to apply to have an apartment and would be paying rent then. And I think the rents run anywhere from about $650 to $750 or something like that. That includes heat and everything, which is incredible, So we're really thrilled that that project is, and we're also thrilled with our current residents. It's always been an interesting mixture of artists. Sometimes there's a lot younger artists there, and they're only there for a year as their careers change. And right now we sort of settle into another thing where some of the artists are at least 50 and older. They're kind of like appreciating, I think, living in a space in a walkable downtown, and aren't looking to kind of move or flip their careers, or more about how do I just kind of settle down and create my artwork. So the affordable housing, I'm hoping, really helps them to maintain that lifestyle and take advantage of other things they can do.
I might say that I think about 5 to 10 years ago, I visited, maybe it's 5 years ago, 5 to 7 years ago, I visited Bellows Falls because I knew about the art project going on here, and I didn't really know where it was, but I read about it online as something really quite avant-garde. And so it's been really a pleasure to see how it actually works. And I would suggest for artists who are interested in reclaiming buildings in your towns and bringing artists together, and creating co-ops or creating any kind of organization that would make this possible, to come and take a look.
Yeah, and especially this weekend, like I'd like to reiterate the Open Studio Weekend, because there's an opportunity where artists have their studios open, so you can really come and meet them. You can see their spaces. You can talk to them a little bit about how it is living in the area. So we're really trying to outreach to people to take advantage of that. They can just wander around and see a bunch in one weekend. So I've sort of been given the high sign. So very quickly, would each of you like to maybe give your website again slowly? And
My website is Claire, CLARE, Adams, art.com.
Okay.
And it has my comings and goings on
Yep,
it.
your
So
contact information
Yep.
and stuff. And please
Check
get
it
out and
out.
see her this weekend at her new studio, which I'm looking forward to seeing.
yeah, it's a beautiful drive
Yeah.
out to Cambridgeport.
Yes,
so.
we'll come out to Cambridgeport. And Charles?
Mine is on the screen there, cwnorrisbrown.com. And on that I have blogs, and I have a little bit of the story around my book projects more than anything else. I'm also not very good at communicating on that, so I have I have an email as well there, cnorrisbrownart@gmail.com.
Great. So thank you both. And thank you for
Robert,
having your
for
having me.
studios
Thank you,
opening and
Thank you.
being part of the community and building the momentum around the artists making a difference.
And
in the
Ramp's
community.
really done a great job.
Oh,
promoting
we've
the
enjoyed
artists
it.
And introducing us all to each other.
Yeah,
and
well, let's keep
done
it
a great-
going.
lot
We
of
got a nice
support.
tribe
Thank you.
going here. Let's
Great
keep
job,
it moving,
Robert.
then. So I want to thank Fact TV for providing such a great resource to share information in our community, and also like to thank the Vermont Arts Council, the National Endowment for the Arts, Chroma Technology, and First Light, formerly SovereignNet, in helping to underwrite programs that RAMP continues to support. See you on the square. Thank you.